Hey, Julie, let's spend a couple minutes now talking about some of the issues that were direct at Champlain Towers South. Strategies for success for having the owners buy into funding reserves. Can you talk for a couple minutes about that, where the owners have either a vote in the budget or they have veto powers, um, where the board is literally sensitive to what the owners are going to say?
Yeah, you and I have talked about this. Before I answer that, I'm going to ask you a question because then it answers everything. You gave me a statistic last time we actually did the main program for this, right? About if reserves are funded, how much the property value goes up, how much? What was that?
12.6%.
Yes. So, okay, for all of you out there playing at home, Robert has a huge database of associations that his company does, as well as other their reserves, and he keeps track of this type of thing. So, if your reserves are well funded, on average, your home prices are worth, Robert,
12.6% more. Yeah.
12.6% more. Now, that's not chump change. I
No.
mean, who doesn't want 12% more of the value of their home?
Yeah. And
What if your home's worth?
that makes that $20 or $30 more per month sound like peanuts.
Exactly right. And see, this kind of information would be great for boards to have, not that they all necessarily have that, but this type of information is out there. As far as funding the reserves go, and right before we started this, Robert and I were talking about that, associations that don't fund their reserves, a lot of times for the boards who are on the board at the time, that doesn't happen. They said, well, we're not going to see in Florida that where these guys were, they could vote down funding reserves. The homeowners could, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And so, number one, it wasn't sold to them well, obviously. But number two, for many, many years, obviously, that works for a board because you all know how difficult it is to be on a board anyway. You're always feel like you're kind of, dodging the bullets continually, and it's us versus them. And this is all volunteer and they don't know how hard you work. And the last thing you want is one more big fight on your hands to fund reserves when, by God, I'm going to move out in 5 years and I don't care what these people do. And that's I don't think everyone really thinks of it that way, but it works for you as a board member if you don't have to do that. It makes your life easier. And believe me, I understand it, but that's not your job. Your job is to preserve, protect, maintain, and enhance the association, our association, not just for the current owners, but for the future owners. That's why all of the professionals, the entire industry recommends that you fund your reserves, not just for that fantastic 12% increase in housing value, but because you're not just going to leave the last people like Champlain Towers, those last people 40 years later. I always think of them as the last board standing when musical chairs ended and there weren't enough chairs to sit.
Yeah.
And
when the record stopped,
yes,
they were the board and they had tried hard, but they were left with 40 years worth of trouble.
That board tried very hard, and it was a fight and a foot race and beyond that. And the sad part for high rises, it's almost more intense because even if you live in a condominium complex, you do have your own front door. You live in a high rise, you all have the same front door. Everybody's got to walk in the lobby. Everybody goes up the 2 or 3 elevators, whatever it is. And you are really stuck with those people closely. So very, very difficult situation.
We talked about the 4 C's, where you need to care about the association. You need to be curious. What do we need at our association? You need to have the courage to do what you need to do, and then have your communication skills. And I wonder if there's an element of courage because let's say in Florida, the owners have line item veto power over reserve contributions.
Yeah.
In so many associations, if the board goes above a certain annual increase, then they have to get owner approval.
Correct.
And I hear so many boards afraid to even do the increase that they have power to do.
Oh,
and
yes.
I challenge them that it is up to you. You have the power to do it. So don't be, and often I see that as 10%. The board has a power to increase homeowner assessments up to 10% or whatever the number is per your governing documents, per your state. The board needs to understand that it's their job and they should feel well within their rights to raise the assessments 4% or 6% or whatever they see the needs to be. And yeah, you're going to have a few owners griping at you.
Yeah.
And that just shows it, in a sense, you're doing your job. That's not a voice that gives veto power to
Right.
you. That's just a voice.
It is. And you know how it is, Robert, and all associations and all you board members out there for sure are going to know this. There are 10% of the people who are not going to be happy no matter what you do. But there's going to be about 3 to 5% that are going to be vocal about it, and really vocal, and can be really nasty. But you have to keep in mind, you can't keep that 3 to 5% in mind. You have to keep that 95% out there in mind, because you are managing this community for everyone,
Right.
for everyone now and into the future.
Yeah.
And believe me, I know it's hard. And here comes back to the communication. So if boards continually communicate, and even if you're not having a special assessment, even if there's nothing big going on, that open, transparent communication just sets you up for success when something does happen. And inevitably something will happen that will be controversial, that people have to vote on, whatever it is. And the more they feel that they have confidence in you as a board member, because you are so transparent. I mean, they don't have to worry that, it's not like a Seinfeld episode where they think you bought a Cadillac, with the association's money. So it's not like that. What they do want, the minutes are out or the minutes are posted. They're always up. And then the newsletter is talking about relevant information. The e-blasts are relevant information. It's not somebody's recipe other than a little bit of filler at the bottom of the newsletter, but it's relevant. And when the association, when the members and the residents know that the board is attuned to the needs of the community, that gives you tremendous credibility.
Yeah.
Tremendous
Our community. This is what we are doing for our Happy Valley Villas, Riverview Heights, whatever it is, our community. Let's take that courage question one step further. You talked about the complainers, and you said 3% or so.
Those are the really bad complainers.
Yeah.
10% are never happy. 3 to 5 are real bad.
Okay. What about the 3% or 10% or more that are on fixed incomes?
It's a really hard one. And this was a problem at Champlain Towers. It happens a lot. I mean, there were residents who had lived there almost since inception, and the building was 40 years old, right? And so they're retired, they're on fixed incomes. And I'm not sympathetic or empathetic. In fact, I'm quite empathetic about it. But the truth is, you cannot run an association based upon the people that are fixed income. You have to address reality within your community. When you say that Mrs. Smith is on a fixed income and she's not going to be able to afford to live here any longer if we raise dues, whatever the amount is, and then the next year it's going to affect somebody else. The truth is, all of us are going to have to move out of whatever home we're in eventually. As you and I've talked many times, I live on an acre. We take care of everything. We have a big house. But I'll tell you what, in another 10 years, I don't think I want to feel like cleaning it anymore. And I know I can't do the yard anymore.
Yeah.
So that means I need to move and downsize. And that's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah. Well, there's that. And then, number one, I totally agree with you. That's part of being courageous, is running the association on behalf of the association, not the minority.
Right.
And let's say, even in the worst case, if the majority is on fixed incomes, I think it exposes a flaw in board member thinking when the board is trying to make a decision on the basis of an owner's point of view, not their point of view, because the board is responsible for the association. If Mrs. Smith or good old Mr. Johnson in Unit 13 is on a fixed income, they can decide to move somewhere else, or they can, as I did for my dad, I paid his $100 cell phone bill. I paid his cable bill. And there's ways, let their problem be their problem.
It has to be their problem.
And let them face their problem.
And I know you're not unempathetic about it. I know you are empathetic. I know it sounds so trite, but it's business, people. I mean, this is a business. You're running a nonprofit corporation, typically.
Multi-million-dollar nonprofit.
Exactly right. Exactly right. You don't think of it that way, but that's what it is. Yeah. And it's your responsibility. You're a fiduciary. You're a trustee of that corporation, and you have to operate on behalf of the corporation in total, not because this person can't afford to live. God, if people, you wouldn't think of that. If somebody lost their job and they had to move out, the board wouldn't be going, oh no, they lost their job, they have to move out, maybe we should lower dues. No, it's the same type of thing. It's the same type of thing. It's sad, but it's true.
Very good point. Well, Julie, this has been a fascinating conversation. I thought I would be guiding this and hosting it, but I've got notes.
You did guide it and host it.
Yeah, but I learn things every time I speak to you. And there's been a rich time, and I'm sure that everyone who has tuned in, listening to this, will enjoy the helpful hints, the guidance, and will be able to do a better job in this post-Surfside world that we live in.
Yeah.
Julie Ademan of Ademan Inc., thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Have a great day.